Bem, boa tarde a todos e todas. Sejam bem-vindos a mais uma palestra da Rede Education USA, esse webinar Como Encontrar a Sua Universidade nos Estados Unidos, com Kansas State University, Purdue University, University of Oregon e University of Vermont. Então, nós vamos falar com vocês sobre como escolher mais facilmente as instituições para as quais vocês estão aplicando, tá? E, então, sem mais delongas, vou apresentar aqui os representantes de cada uma dessas universidades, mas só lembrá-los que a Rede Education USA é uma rede ligada ao Departamento de Estado dos Estados Unidos. São mais de 400 escritórios no mundo inteiro. Aqui no Brasil são 42. Nós estamos na Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, que é um dos 2 escritórios em São Paulo. Então, nós, como Rede Education USA, estamos aqui à disposição para atender vocês, para falar a respeito da aplicação para os programas nos Estados Unidos. Então, eu estou muito feliz, né, aqui no escritório que nós temos na Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, de receber hoje, então, Lourenço Wilcox, que é o Assistant Director for International Recruitment da University of Oregon, Logan Golby, International Admission Coordinator da Kansas State University, Mike Paris, que está representando Purdue University here with us, Jesus Ramirez, Regional Associate Director of Admissions da University of Vermont. Guys, thank you very much for being here with us. The floor is yours.
Alrighty, thank you so much, David, and hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm gonna go ahead and share my presentation here. All right, so hopefully you can see this well, but just to introduce ourselves again. So my name is Lorenzo Wilcox. I'm representing the University of Oregon, and I'm joined here by 3 other colleagues from different institutions, as you already heard. But we wanted to come together and present to you on an important topic. I see that we have various students who are looking to study in the U.S. and who might be in different, in a different program right now. So some are in high school, some are already at a university or have completed an initial degree, and you're looking for, graduate level work. So we wanted to give you some tips and ideas for how to navigate the college search process for the United States, because you will find that there are many options here in the country, a lot of factors to consider as you go through the search process and as you work towards finding that best fit university that will work the best for you and your goals. So the goal of this presentation is to provide you with that information. And then, of course, to answer any questions that you might have about studying in the U.S. So throughout the presentation, if you have any questions that come up, please feel free to write them in the chat. We will be monitoring that as we go. And then at the end, we will have dedicated time for your questions. But to start, I'd love to ask you, and hopefully you can put this in the chat, but just out of curiosity, how many universities do you think there are in the United States? Feel free to throw out your guesses. How many universities are there in the US? And I'll give you a few seconds, so don't be shy. Okay, 1,000, 2,000. Okay, I feel some of you have done extensive research on this, which is great. All right, that's a good guess too. All right, great. Thanks for participating. And here's the answer. So actually more than 4,000 institutions in the United States. So for those who knew that, that's pretty great that you're already invested enough to know this information. So thanks so much for participating there. But the point of this is to say there's clearly a lot of variety in the United States. There's a lot of institutions that will have that will vary with regards to the academic programs that they offer, regards to the size of their institution or their student body, their location, the region that they're in the country. And you'll find that as you navigate this process, and as you maybe get in contact with different university officials, you'll find that admission requirements will vary greatly. And maybe some of the answers that you'll get is, it depends, right? It depends. Institutions have their own admission requirements. It's a very decentralized process here in the US. We don't have one national system of universities. So you have to make your list of institutions that you want to apply to, and then reach out and work with them directly to complete their admissions process. So we want to give you the tips on how to do that and how to help you, research 4,000 universities and narrow down that list. So as you start the research, you'll find that there are a lot of great things that all universities have in common. So general education is something that you will encounter here in American university degrees, which might be a little different from what you have studied in Brazil, for example, as a bachelor's degree, or what you would expect to study at a Brazilian university. In the US, we definitely want you to specialize in, chemistry or physics or different programs like that that were listed here earlier. But we also want you to become a well-rounded student. So we want you to take those general education courses, which might be, even if you are majoring in physics, which is a science-heavy program, we also want you to take arts and letters. We want you to take, English composition courses. We want you to take social sciences, and just so that you can become a well-rounded student and be knowledgeable about different areas, not just your main specialization, which you will also become very knowledgeable about that. So that's something that you can expect out of all institutions here. We will require some sort of general education. Also, we are definitely known for student life and campus involvement. So we want you to not only, have your class schedule, but also be engaged on campus outside of the classroom. So whether this is, multicultural organizations or the outdoor club, any of our institutions, or you like to play music and you want to join one of our bands, like whatever it might look for you, or if you play sports, we want you to be doing something to connect with the greater community of the institutions. So you'll find that, being involved is really a major part of the American education system. So again, using that time wisely outside of the classroom to engage in different activities with that community. And then you'll also find that there's a variety of student services that are offered at all institutions. So we all will have, a career center to help you get a job on campus while you're studying in your degree, or to connect you with alumni or help you network for potential job opportunities after your degree. Some of you mentioned, master's degrees in science. So we would help you, learn about STEM and OPT, for example, if you ever wanted to explore different career opportunities here. So we all have those services to help you succeed as you study your program here in the US. But that's just kind of what makes us similar. But there's many, many things that makes us different. And that is what we're going to focus on for the most part, how to help you choose what, is more important to you. But definitely, mission and vision, some universities, will align a little better with maybe who you are and what your personality might be. The institution type, some of us are research institutions. I believe all of us are, or there's also community colleges. So, you want to research what degrees are offered by each institution, perhaps what the size of their student body is. In the US, you have campuses from like 200 students up to 100,000 students. So it's a big difference that, being in that environment. So perhaps you already know that you want to be in a smaller community. So that's going to more or less influence the universities that you're looking into. But again, academic programs are going to be a major factor that, some universities will specialize in different things. And then opportunities for research and for, getting forward, right? Moving forward and making progress, whether it is through internships or career opportunities. And of course, financial factors are always, they always play a major role. So you want to find out what types of scholarships are offered or graduate assistantships, for example. And then again, those student support services and extracurricular activities that you can find at different institutions will vary greatly. So these are just a few things to get your mind going on all the different factors that will vary in the US. But now I'll go ahead and pass it on to Jesus to continue with the conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lorenzo. My name is Jesus Ramirez with the University of Vermont. And as you can see, there's a lot of different options in the US. And we can get started with talking about the process that most international students go through when they're seeking to get their education in the US. You'll find that the process is quite lengthy, and typically in the US, most universities start their academic year in the fall semester, which is either like August or September. So as you're getting ready to explore different options, I typically tell students it's about a whole year process from the time you start exploring and narrowing down your options to when you actually commit to a university and decide to go into the university. So you're looking about a year process, starting off with exploring your options. As you can see, there's 4,000 different options in the US. Once you figure out which universities are the ones that best fit the programs that you're looking to apply, or the location, or perhaps the size, then you can sort of narrow down a handful or maybe 10 universities to apply to. Once you submit your admission application, you're going to hear back from the different universities, and it takes a couple months to hear back. Typically, students apply sometime in the fall, up to November 30th, maybe December, and they'll hear back later in around this time, February, March, April, about a decision. When you hear back from your admissions decision, some universities might also provide you with information about sort of different resources, financial resources that they can help you in supporting your education, whether it be a merit scholarship, scholarships for international students, work study, or whatnot. So once you have all that information, you can kind of figure out which university is sort of the best fit in terms of academics, location, size, but also about your financial fit. And then you commit to one university and start the whole process of sending all your documentation for your student visa and all your pre-arrival preparations. And as you're getting ready to explore different options, think about sort of like what you're seeking at a university. So it's important to know yourself before you start the college search process. Figure out what you are looking at a university. Do you see yourself in the US? And if so, are you looking at the East Coast or the West Coast, somewhere in the South, somewhere in the Midwest? There's quite a few different options. And also look to see what is the cost of attending that specific institution, and what kind of resources that university has to see if it also fits your financial budget. There's a lot of universities, so try to figure out which is the best university. Do you see yourself living in Boston, Massachusetts, or do you see yourself living more in San Francisco, California? And there's just so many options. The US is a very big country, and there's a lot of institutions, anywhere from a small private institution to a large public institution to a religious university. And they all have their own sort of admission process and their own personality. And hopefully, as you're going through this search process, you'll find some universities that are sort of the perfect fit in terms of all the things that you're looking at a US institution. And so right now, this is a great opportunity to start asking some questions about the reasons that you're seeking higher education and the reasons you're seeking a US institution specifically. So what's the reason that you want to attend a university? And also like what do you seek to get from a US university? And what are your sort of expectations of a college experience? And lastly, what is your learning style? Do you see yourself in a big lecture hall with hundreds and hundreds of students, or do you prefer a smaller sort of educational setting of 20 to 30 students? And so as you're sort of answering these questions, it can help you figure out which universities will be the best fit. And with that, I'll pass it on to my colleague, Logan.
Thank you, Jesus. So you might be questioning or asking yourself, with 4,000, almost 4,500 universities across the United States, how do you even begin narrowing that list down to 4 or 5 institutions? So here over the next few slides, we'll kind of talk about what you can be doing and the questions you should be asking yourself, and resources that you can use in that process. So one thing I want to ask you all to do is if you can just start putting in the chat some of the resources that you have used in your college search process. If you've done that, it sounds like some of you have done some research on the United States. So I would love to hear from you all what resources you're using. So while those are coming in the chat, I'll talk a little bit more about some resources that are really great for students to start with. So of course, Education USA. So you all are on a really, really great path. You're already here. You're clearly already connected with Education USA there in Sao Paulo. So it's a really great, great starting place. They're able to talk about the United States. They can speak more about how the United States education system might differ from the educational experience that you would be getting there in your home country or in neighboring countries. They can also really start guiding you through what that application process looks like, and be a resource for you in connecting you with universities or with help questions about what does a visa application look like? How do you even begin that process? So Education USA is a phenomenal resource that you all have right there in your own backyard that you can start working with. Beyond that, university websites are a really, really good starting point as well. So no matter if you're looking for an undergraduate or a graduate degree, university websites will have all the information that you need on it. So for students that are looking for undergraduate programs, you can start by taking a look at what programs are offered at that university. Not every college or university in the US is going to have every single major. And some of them may have a more highly ranked or highly recognized program in a particular major. So you might start your research there just to see what sort of resources or what sort of majors they have available. If you're looking at a graduate program, it can be really important to start looking not just at the university website, but also at the website for the individual department that you're looking into. So if you're wanting to study physics, or we had some students earlier mentioning chemistry and mathematics, it'll be really important to look on that individual website and see what the faculty members in that area are doing research on and how that aligns with your own academic and research interests. That'll be really important in your application and financing process as well. So we have a few coming in. So College Board, that's a really great resource, just like Lorenzo mentioned. It's a fantastic place to start that, to kind of understand what sort of tests are available or required at that institution. So College Board is an organization that every university across the United States is familiar with and works with as well. So we also have program websites, US News Education, Find a PhD. So those are, again, great resources. US News Education, they do a lot of rankings of universities. So that's a good place to start your process. So here we'll talk a little bit more about demystifying rankings. So one thing I would caution is don't rely 100% on the rankings to make your college decision. Of course, everyone wants to get a quality education, but every ranking is a little bit different. So you might look at a ranking and you may not be getting the full story of what that ranking is being told. So here towards the bottom of this slide, you can see we have two different rankings. So US News and World Report, as well as Forbes magazine. And so you can see how they actually, what weight they give each individual category as they're choosing or as they're creating or developing their ranking for each individual university. So they take into account things like the student success from that organization or from that university. They also take into account the faculty, how many faculty they have, what the student to faculty ratio is, but every individual ranking organization may choose to weight those different categories differently. So it's important to know what you're looking at when you are considering rankings. And like we'll see here in a bit, rankings aren't everything. A lot of what you need to look at is what is that fit. So some of my colleagues before have talked about the fit and identifying what the best institution for you will be. So including financial fit. So that's a really important piece. We know that US education is definitely a significant investment, but it is an investment in yourself and in your future. So we know that university graduates tend to earn $1 million more across their lifetime than non-university graduates. So you definitely are making a significant investment in yourself when you're choosing your education, but understanding what your finances are and what the financing available to you is going to be an important discussion in that fit. So again, it's not just about finances though. You need to know what sort of institution you're applying to. If you're looking for a research program, or if you're looking for a research graduate, a research assistantship for your graduate degree, making sure that that university offers a graduate program. Not every university, college or university in the US offers graduate study. So understanding what type of program you're applying to can be just as important in that process as everything else. Again, we also want you to understand the physical location or the geography of where you're applying to. So if you're wanting to study fashion design, you might want to go to a New York where they have a lot of fashion studies programs, and you're kind of in that cultural mecca of fashion within the United States. And again, if you're thinking about film studies, being in the LA area might be useful to you as well, but there's more to that than just what the programs are being offered and what the industries around it are. The physical geography of the area can be just as important to your college search and your college experience. So one thing that we always encourage students to consider is your life outside of the classroom as well. So you don't want to be in an environment where you're going to be constantly stressed. So you want to be in an environment where you're going to thrive in your academics. So having a healthy and active social life outside of the classroom can be just as important as having a really strong academic experience at your university. So really start thinking to yourself, asking what is important to you in that, in a university, because you're going to be spending a significant amount of time. So anywhere between 2 years for a master's program, up to 5 years for a PhD program in some instances, and 4 years for an undergraduate program. So you are going to be spending a lot of time there. So you want to make sure that you're researching all the different opportunities and as well as all the different aspects of the university before you make that final commitment to really understand what you're looking for and what is important to you in your college search process. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Mike.
Thanks, Logan. I'm sure you guys have you've been through a lot of these presentations already, but I'm glad that you are still here and joining us. Really, to begin, I know that everyone has their own preferences, and it does come down to that. It does come down to what you prefer. Some students might choose a highly ranked university. Some might put more importance on smaller schools. So really, at the end of the day, it will be dependent on you. But here are some of the main categories that students typically consider. First, of course, is academics. This comes in, with ranking, research opportunity, whether or not it's online versus in person. Some classes are more hands-on, some majors are more hands-on. So things like that you'll need to consider. Of course, like I said, it does come down to your preference, but also think about what major you're applying for. Does the major require you to be in class? Does the major have a lot of research outside of class and things like that? Second is some more personal aspects, like do you prefer to be in the South, where it's mostly just 2 seasons, rainy and sunny, or if you want to experience all 4 seasons. Next thing to consider for personal would be financial resources. Do you need aid when it comes to your tuition, or is that something that doesn't matter to you? Because that's one of the big things that a lot of students really do think about, especially as an undergraduate, where you'll be there for the whole 4 years, and some universities do offer aid for international students, but some universities don't. So that is definitely something that you should be considering. Last but not least will be on the professional side. Does the university provide a lot of opportunity for co-ops, internships? Who are the professors? What types of research are they doing? Are you able to join those research? Now, really, with those categories, I would like to share some tips on how to do your research on this next slide. I think one of the best things that COVID brought is accessibility. I feel like all my colleagues here can attest to this, where now more than ever, students who are wanting to go abroad for university are able to take advantage of a lot of virtual opportunities. May it be a virtual campus tour, or being able to talk with an admissions counselor through Zoom. You can see their faces. It's not just on a phone call, and you can actually have that one-to-one relationship. Other things that you can do is, follow social media accounts. We are in a technological age, and a lot of universities are taking advantage of these avenues to reach out to students. So definitely give them a follow, especially if you already have, your top 3 universities. I would highly encourage that you follow all of their social media accounts. A lot of these social media accounts, they have, a day in the life of a student, where they will show you what the student typically goes through throughout the day. And I feel like that's a great insight of what it's like being in that university. Another option would be to either talk with a specific department within the respective universities, or reaching out to the admissions office. Again, I think I can say this for all of us, for all of my colleagues here, in that we love speaking with prospective students. That's our job. We love guiding you guys throughout the process. Make sure that you have all the required documents. We can even share, what it's like to be at Purdue, or at any university really at this point, because we do work for the university, and we go to the office, we see the students walking around, we do know what's going on our respective campuses. And so really, I can't say this enough. Talk to us. Let us know how we can help you. We're here for you. Now for the next slide, the hard part is narrowing down fit. Ultimately, you are the master of yourself, and you would want to go to a university that fits you, instead of a university where you will fit in. So depending on your preferences, you might want to start with an Excel sheet. That's always nice to have, where you can easily compare everything between the universities, like size, financial aid, location, ranking, so on. There are a lot of universities out there with different opportunities. So doing your research is very, very important. Now, Lorenzo, I think we'll be talking about some other resources that you can use.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And yeah, just to close it out with this particular topic, a lot of you mentioned some of the resources that are already here. And I know Logan talked about EdUSA being such a great resource for you, and again, you're already seem connected to this center. And so just continue that engagement because they do have a lot of great resources available to help you figure out what the best fit is for you, what your priorities are going to be, what's going to matter the most in your college search. But also, if you're starting to research universities, because some of you mentioned, you're in 9th grade or maybe 10th grade in high school. So it's kind of a great time to start, getting those ideas in place and researching, what region of the US you want to be in, what type of university you want to go to. And also, to expand your mind, because for sure you've heard about, some 3 or 4 great institutions that are very famous perhaps across the world, but it's good to dive into these resources to see what else is out there, because you never know, we can always surprise you with some great opportunities and great campuses that you hadn't heard about before. So look into these resources, like the College Board, like someone mentioned, and also the guide to colleges as well. But just some final tips. Time is going to be your best friend throughout this whole process. Again, you've seen that, as Jesus mentioned, the process really starts about 1 year in advance. That's, it is quite a complicated process with various stages. So you want to make sure that you plan ahead, and then connect with us, because like I said, university admission requirements will vary by university. If you're looking at a graduate program, you'll quickly find that it's a two-step process. Every graduate department will have their own requirements. They will have their own tests that you might have to take and a minimum score that you have to have for that particular program. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. Like Mike said, we really want to talk to you. That is what we do. We love it. And we want to be able to guide you because we understand the complexity of the process. So we don't want you to get overwhelmed by the details and the variety. So please reach out to us via Zoom. We'll leave our contact information at the end as well. But just, don't hesitate to ask questions throughout the process so that, you don't make, any major mistakes during the process. We would like to give you that information ahead of time. And again, I'll just reiterate, keep an open mind and expand your options. Again, it's really important. You never know what else is out there until you do the research and connect with us. All right, so just keep an open mind through the process. And now I want to be conscious of your time. I do want to open it up for questions just a little bit, but maybe guys, as we go, we just do a quick 1 minute overview of our universities, and then we go into questions. So I can get us started with the University of Oregon, located on the west coast of the United States, in the college town of Eugene, Oregon. We are a campus of around 23,000 students total, about 100 countries represented. So it does have a nice global feel. And some of our most famous programs or most well-known programs would be business and finance, law and architecture and journalism, but also the sciences. So we are a research institution. So anything related to neuroscience or biochemistry or biology or marine biology, we definitely offer that for our students. And then if you have any more questions for us specifically, you will see our contact info at the end. But I think Purdue, you're up.
Thanks, Lorenzo. So super quickly, Purdue University is located in West Lafayette, Indiana. We are in the Midwest. We are primarily known for STEM. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We are known as the cradle of astronauts, where we have about 27 astronauts already that went to outer space, 2 of which the most recent ones were part of the Virgin Galactic spaceflight that happened a few months ago. This also includes Neil Armstrong, the first person to walk on the moon, as well as Eugene Cernan. Again, just to go back to the presentation, rankings is not everything, but it is part of our job to talk about our rankings, unfortunately. But ultimately, we are known for STEM, Purdue University. But yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So my name is Jesus Ramirez with the University of Vermont, a public research institution, 3 hours, a 3-hour drive from Boston, Massachusetts, or an hour and a half drive from Montreal, Canada. So if you're looking for all 4 seasons, especially if you love the snow, come to Vermont. It's a great location for skiing. Our total population is 13,000, 10,000 being undergrad. So they're working on their bachelor's, and the 3,000 remaining are working on their master's or PhD programs. For undergraduate students, we have 40 accelerated master's programs where you can work on your bachelor's and master's at the same time. So hopefully that sparks some food for thought about some options in the East Coast. And from Vermont, we'll pass it on to Kansas.
Hi again, everyone. My name is Logan Gabi. I'm the International Recruitment Coordinator here at Kansas State University. We are a large public research university right in the middle of the United States. So we have a lot of countries represented. My slide is a little bit out of date. I didn't get a chance to update it, but we have 101 countries represented across our campus, over 250 undergraduate programs, more than 150 graduate programs. Being a research university, we do focus a lot in the STEM areas, but we have programs everywhere from aviation to architecture, agriculture, veterinary medicine, engineering, as well as the humanities and social sciences. A couple of things that I really appreciate about K-State, we are actually the #1 university for the happiest students and #3 for the best quality of life. So our students really do thrive and they really enjoy their time when they get here to the university. And we know that going to a university is all about getting a job after. So we really take that into account, and we do have one of the top career services to help you use your time as an undergraduate or a graduate student to really prepare for that next step or that next chapter of your life from there. So I think that here on the next slide, we do have all of our contact information, and from there we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, thanks so much, Logan. And yes, we do have our contact info. And I want to say, if you have questions that you feel more comfortable asking in Portuguese, by all means, do that. And our friend David is going to help us understand what the question is. So whatever you feel comfortable with, feel free to unmute or put your question in the chat. But in the meantime, thanks so much for joining us. We'll stick around and see what questions you might have.
Yes, exactly what Lorenzo just said. We are here for you. If you feel more comfortable to bring the question in Portuguese, we will interpret that. And just taking this minute to thank you again, Lorenzo, Jesus, Mike, and Logan for being here. What a comprehensive presentation that you just gave to all of us in a nutshell. Thank you very much. It's going to be a resource for all of us here.
Of course.
Guys, so please just take this amazing opportunity of having the representatives of 4 universities here to talk to you. So we have Raissa here on the chat. So we have our first question.
Let's see. Raissa asks, is it recommended to contact a prospective faculty supervisor before applying to a PhD program? Would anyone like to answer that?
I can start with that. So yes, it is a good idea to contact professors, especially if you're applying for a PhD program, and in particular, if you're looking for funding for your program. It's always a great idea to talk to them, make sure that your areas of research align with what your interests are and what research assignment they have at the university, what their research interests are, or any future research they intend to undertake. One thing I will caution with that, however, is university professors are very busy. They typically have their research assignment. They also have a teaching assignment, both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. And they may be getting a lot of emails from prospective students like yourself. So don't feel discouraged if you don't get an immediate response from professors. Continue reaching out, be respectful, obviously give them time, maybe a week or so to respond, but continue to reach out and reach out to multiple universities at the same time. So you don't have to just kind of pigeonhole yourself and only reach out to one institution, but it's really good to reach out to a number of places, but know that it may take a little while for you to get a response from institutions. That being said, it's not required that you contact professors either before you apply to a program. If you know the program is the right fit for you, you can still apply to the program, and oftentimes you can still be considered in your application for financial assistantship or for like a graduate teaching or research assistantship without having directly reached out to and been in contact with a professor. But it's up to you. If you want to reach out to them, that's great. But again, it's not required in the process either.
Thank you, Logan. I see another question from Katerina. She asks, since we would be foreign students, would a Cambridge or TOEFL test or scores make a difference in the selective process? I can take a stab at this one. So yes, international students will most likely require a English proficiency exam as part of their overall admissions process, whether it is to an undergraduate program, so to a bachelor's degree, or a graduate level degree like a master's or a PhD. The TOEFL or the IELTS is they're probably the most well-known out of the English exams that you can take. But also you might find that different institutions are now accepting the Duolingo test, for example, to meet this requirement. And the Duolingo, being an accessible test now due to COVID and the pandemic, it really made the process a little more accessible for students to complete their English exam and submit those scores. But again, if you have a program in mind, just be aware that the program might have their own minimum scores that you need to have on each exam. So just do your research and ensure that the exam that you want to take is going to be accepted by the program, and that you know what the minimum score is for you to be eligible for the program. Any other questions? Let's see.
Yes.
Sabella, how hard is it to get a scholarship in the US? Anyone would like to talk about scholarships?
I can chat a little bit about it. So you'll find that different universities have different resources. At the University of Vermont specifically, when students apply, even as an international student, and this is for undergraduate programs, my knowledge for PhD and graduate programs is somewhat limited, but if you're seeking a undergraduate bachelor's degree and you're applying as an international student, at the point of admissions, you're submitting your official high school transcript that shows record of your academic history. So based on that information, when we review your application for admission, we're also reviewing your application for a merit scholarship. Our merit scholarship ranges from $4,000 up to $20,000 per academic year. So if you get the highest dollar amount, that is $20,000, that will cover about a third of the total cost of attending the University of Vermont. So we can provide you support up to a third. So it's a very simple process at UVM, but other universities might be a little bit different. So it's important as you're building your list of schools to reach out and see what kind of scholarships or funding they can provide.
And I guess I'll just add, oh, sorry, David, go ahead.
No, just I was saying, the question is very important, and what Jesus brought is very interesting, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, all of us would offer scholarships. Some might have, scholarships that you can apply to separately that might be looking at different factors like, extracurricular involvement, which I see a question in Portuguese, but I was able to understand at least that coming up. So we'll talk about the value of extracurriculars. And also for graduate level programs, funding can look very differently as well. So just be aware, you probably encounter the term graduate assistantship as a way to pretty much get a tuition waiver of sorts and get a stipend, perhaps a monthly stipend for doing research or helping out in your department by guiding a first year discussion session, for example, for the department while you're studying your graduate degree. So funding can look a little different, just so you know. Mike, we have a question for Purdue actually. So what's the maximum number of pages for a resume that Purdue expects?
We expect at least 100 pages. I'm kidding. We don't. I think resume is not something that we ultimately require, but if a student would want to do, and I think I can speak for all the universities as well, where resumes can add on to the application, but it's not necessarily a requirement. For the most part, a lot of different universities during the application process, they do require an essay. So if it's the essay that you're talking about, it depends on the university. And for Purdue specifically, we don't have a maximum. We do have a maximum. I think it's like 1,600 words for the essay. But ultimately, when you are applying, there is going to be a space in the application process, not just for Purdue, but for the other universities, where you can actually add additional information. When I talk to prospective students, I always tell them the more information that you could put in your application, the better it is for you. Unfortunately, us admissions counselors, we don't have a crystal ball in front of us that would tell us everything about you. So if there is something that you feel like you should share with us, like an experience or maybe explaining, a C in a subject, definitely put that on your application. It's only going to help you. But yeah, thanks for the question.
Thank you, Mike. And David, can you help us out with
Yes.
the other question? Yeah.
So we have this question from Mel. She says that she is in the first year of high school here in Brazil, and she's wondering what she should work on to get like a full ride scholarship, right? She asks us if engaging in extracurricular activities or having good grades, participate in the Olympiads, or things like that. But considering that we have this focus today as how to search the schools, right? I think it's very important to highlight the fact that if she is in the first year of high school, she now has more time to search for the schools, right, guys?
Yes, no, definitely. And the great thing is that she does have time to work on all these other factors that universities are going to look at. So I'm happy to start this one, but one thing that she might encounter now is something called holistic review that I'm pretty sure all of us probably do in just our admissions process. But it's kind of the majority of institutions in the U.S. will do this, and this means that we don't just value your academics, so your grades, right, throughout these next 3 years that you have in high school, but we value what you did outside of the classroom. So the great thing is that you're just starting high school, so you have the opportunity to focus on both, and ensure that you are, taking the most challenging courses that your school offers, and that you're maybe preparing for the career that you already know you want to go into, and then that you're also pursuing activities outside of the classroom that are important to you. I mean, this can be the Olympics of some sort. I think I make out that word, but this can be that, or this can be things that you're involved in your community, a sport, or any other thing, that an internship, for example, or research that you're doing. So we will value, I think your academics is priority number one for sure for a lot of the universities, because that is what we use to award scholarships in the first place. But we also value what you do outside of the classroom. So they're both very important. And especially now that you're starting early, you will have the time to focus on both, and be able to be competitive for admissions. So hopefully that helps.
And guys, before we go on to Paulo's question, may I bring one for you?
Yes.
Well, in terms of searching for schools, a very important aspect, and we have received questions throughout the presentation regarding scholarships, is the cost of life in each state, right? Can you bring us a perspective from each of your states? How is the cost of life there? Because it impacts on the programs, investment, housing, meals, and etc. Right?
Sure. So, I mean, our cost of attendance is roughly around 60,000 per year, and basically that includes tuition and fees. So that students graduate in the 4 years. So that's kind of how we calculate it. In addition to that, includes room and board, so housing and meal plans. See a question about health insurance here, and I can talk about it because usually going to be a charge that you see in their cost of attendance. There are ways to bypass the health insurance that a university provides, as long as the students are coming in with health insurance that is covered in the U.S. For example. But there are ways to do that. But also other estimated expenses and living expenses. For us, our scholarships can cover. It is competitive, but you can get it up to 2/3 or so that it's covered. But again, I think just as being public universities, a full ride is something that probably we can't provide. So it's good to come to the process with this expectation, but also know that there are opportunities to maximize your funding. But I'll go ahead and send it over to Logan. Talk a little bit about Kansas State.
Yeah, thanks, Lorenzo. So for the total cost of attendance, like Lorenzo was mentioning, at Kansas State, our total cost of attendance is about $45,000 per year. About $25,000 of that is tuition and fees for the university for your courses that you're taking, and the rest of that would be things like off-campus housing, on or off-campus housing, as well as personal expenses like transportation, going out to the movies, purchasing new clothing, that sort of stuff as well. So it is important as you're going through your process of narrowing down institutions, like we were talking about before with that financial fit, of understanding what that total cost of attendance is. Don't just look at the tuition cost. Know that you are living in a location, so you do have to always have housing and meals and additional things like transportation. Those are important factors to include into your budget and your spreadsheet as you're building that out. One thing about the United States in general, if you're looking for a larger city experience, like in New York, LA, Chicago, those are going to be a little bit more expensive. Some more rural or kind of like American college town sort of experiences might be a little bit more inexpensive. So that would be another thing to take into consideration as you're building your budgets. I will turn it over to Mike.
Thanks, Logan. That was a great segue because Purdue University is a college town, and the cost of living here is much smaller compared to what Logan said, that if there's a university in LA or New York or Chicago. But with that being said, we are the land grant institution of Indiana, and unfortunately, we do not offer any scholarships to our incoming international students. So this plays in with, do your research, make sure that everything, especially if financial aid is something that is sort of like a make it or break it for you. But with that, our tuition has been frozen for 11 years now, so it has not moved, and it's about $40,000 for our international students. It is announced every year, but it is something that we're very proud of, and I'm hoping that it will continue on. But scholarships wise, once you're at Purdue, I'm sure there are other scholarship opportunities as well for the other universities where you can actually apply for them. It's smaller in amount, but you can apply to a lot. And a lot of these scholarships will be dependent on the college that you are in. So for example, if you are in biology, you might be able to take advantage of scholarships that is being offered in the College of Science within that university. So ultimately, what I'm trying to say here is there is a lot of opportunity for you to get some sort of financial aid. It's just a matter of asking the right people and knowing where to look. And I will pass it on to Jesus.
Thanks. So the University of Vermont is in Burlington, Vermont, in New England. And so it's a college town. Our total cost of attending the university is about $60,000. 40 is about tuition, 13,000 is about room and board, and then the additional it's like fees and miscellaneous expenses and personal expenses. And at the point of admission, we do automatically consider all international students seeking a undergraduate degree, a merit scholarship based on your academics. So going back to the question from Rice, I think, academics is always going to be the most important part. So from your high school transcript, we can award up to $20,000, which covers a third of the total cost. Unfortunately, we don't have a full ride scholarship, and it's very tough to get a full ride scholarship in the US. So there is some sort of investment that the student and family makes into coming into the US.
David, how are we doing on time?
Yes, now we're approaching 6, but I think we have Paulu's question, right, regarding the health insurance waiver, a fee waiver, and maybe an extra question, and then we're going to close the session. Is that okay?
Yeah. So Yeah, again, with the health insurance, it's something that universities do require international students to have. Often our campuses will provide that. But again, if you do have a qualified health insurance plan already that covers you in the U.S., at least for us, you are able to submit that documentation and waive the health insurance that we would give you and just use yours. Logan, I see you're unmuted, so maybe you have something to add on that one.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Apollo, you were looking for a PhD program. So those graduate teaching and graduate research assistantships that we spoke about earlier, typically they will cover health insurance. So you wouldn't have to have it waived. If you're being offered an assistantship, 9 times out of 10, that health insurance would be covered within that assistantship, in addition to your tuition reduction and that monthly living stipend. So those are some things to consider when you get the assistantship, or if you're offered an assistantship, taking a look at everything that's covered within that, because that can be, a couple of $1,000s a year reduction that you're saving there with the tuition or with the insurance waiver. And as far as like CV guidelines and statement of purpose, I think the CV, like the thing with that would just be, have it be an honest representation of what you have, what you've done. So the research that you've taken part in, your educational experiences, all that. So you don't want to inflate it necessarily, but make sure that it is comprehensive. So we want to make sure that we see your total, your entire self in your CV, all of your experiences that you're bringing to the table. That will help you in admission, but also will help you in the assistantship conversation as your department is considering you for financial assistantship. And the statement of purpose, really take a look at what you intend to get out of the program. Highlight your research experiences, highlight your ambitions after you graduate from the program, and where you see yourself and where you see the program taking you, and really kind of focus on why you're choosing that individual institution. One thing I do encourage all students to do is, it's kind of annoying, honestly, but every time that you're applying to an institution, particularly at a master's or a PhD level, write a brand new statement of purpose for every application. So don't just have the same one that you're copying and pasting over and changing the name of the institution in there. One, sometimes we see students that they don't change the name, they forget to do that, and that's a big red flag from the beginning. But two, each university is going to be different. Their professors are going to be working on different research. So being able to customize that statement of purpose for your interests and how they match up and pair up with that individual institution is going to be really important. So again, on the CV and your statement of purpose, they should be honest reflections of who you are, your academic interests, and where you see that university, or how you see that university advancing your individual career goals.
Guys, thank you very much for not only answering questions regarding how to find the schools in the US, but also providing some time to answer these questions about the scholarships and the waivers, right? And the CV and personal statement. Well, that's amazing. And guys, you that are watching now this presentation, or if you are watching the recording, you see 4 different institutions for 4 different states in the United States. You have a great variety of programs, of universities there. Please check. You're gonna find your best fit there for sure. You have 4 very rich examples here with us. Please contact them for more information, right, guys? And I don't know if you have any final announcements or remarks before we close the session.
No, just I think speaking for all of us, just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to continue this conversation with you. But thank you.
That's great. And so I'm now closing the session, and thank you very much, Lorenzo, Jesus, Mike, and Logan for being here with us in this webinar. As I mentioned before, it's gonna be for sure a resource for our Education USA network in Brazil. What a comprehensive presentation you brought to us about how to find your schools. And we are here for you. the representatives of the American higher education institutions, and for you, the candidates who are watching us tonight. And so I'll see you in the next events. Please check our agenda, our social media, and now just a final blurb in Portuguese, okay, guys? Sejam, então, agradecemos a vocês por participar desse webinar com 4 grandes universidades dos Estados Unidos: University of Oregon, University of Vermont, Purdue University and Kansas State University. Nós falamos hoje, então, sobre como buscar a sua escola, a sua universidade nos Estados Unidos. Não deixem de participar, então, dos eventos da Rede Education USA. Chequem nossas agendas dentro do site educationusa.org.br e também a nossa social media. Nos vemos em breve. Obrigado por assistir. Tchau.